As the Deans, I think, said, the format for tonight's discussion is that there are 3 speakers here on the platform, and following them it's over to you for discussion and debate and questions. And all the 3 of us feel that this part, the discussion, the debate, your questions, your input, are the most important part of the evening. So we're all going to keep our remarks as economical as possible, so as many of you who want to speak and ask and question and debate have the time, the maximum time to do that. So what's this evening about? I want to start with what it's not about. Tonight is not about religion. Tonight is not about politics. Tonight is about science. It's about the science of sex and the science of sex research. Which means we have to deal with Alfred Kinsey, because Alfred Kinsey was the father of sex research. Almost 70 years ago, Kinsey published 2 major books, the first of 2 major books, Sexual Behaviour in the Human Male, followed by Sexual Behaviour in the Human Female. They revolutionised attitudes to sex worldwide, and they were the direct causes of fundamental changes in law and in society's attitude to sex and in what our children are taught about sex. Whilst some reassessment was, I think, inevitable in a post-World War II world, and frankly, in my view, much needed. Just one example, in one state in America, it was illegal, it was against the law to laugh while you were having sex. Those were the kind of laws that I think probably needed a little updating. But Kinsey's most revolutionary and notable argument was not about whether you should laugh during sex, but was whether children were sexual. And he argued that children were sexual beings from birth, that they could enjoy sex from birth. As a consequence of this argument, everything we know and think and teach about children and sex changed from that moment on. So, where did this argument come from, and is it scientifically valid? And there are 3 reasons why I think we need to question that. Kinsey told us that his conclusion that children are sexual beings from birth and can enjoy sex from birth derived from scientific study. We're going to show you, we're going to argue, and I think we're going to prove, that Kinsey broke every fundamental tenet of science and scientific research to produce that. The second reason is that ever since the publication of those 2 Kinsey volumes, he and the institute which today bears his name have refused to allow any normal academic evaluation of the raw data which he said supported his conclusion. And the third reason is that despite both of these 2 problems, his doctrine that children are sexual from birth has determined child protection policy worldwide, certainly in the West and now increasingly further east. Why was Kinsey's suggestion, his argument, so revolutionary? The reason is that prior to Kinsey, policy in industrialized countries had been to recognize that children need protection against early sexual activity. From as early as the beginning of the 19th century, most industrialized countries began to introduce age of consent laws, laws below which children were not legally allowed to have sex, nor were adults allowed to have sex with them. By the end of the Second World War, which is at the time Kinsey is sitting there writing his volumes, age of consent laws were the norm. and they reflected a belief, an understanding, that children and childhood need to be insulated from the emotional and physical damage which can accrue from premature sexual activity. So Kinsey's argument in 1948 that children were sexual from birth and can enjoy sex from birth was, in his words, a bombshell. He was then a tenured professor at an American university, so his book, his work, carried not only the imprimatur of a genuine academic community, but he claimed and argued that his conclusions were scientifically proven. And I remind you, I'm arguing here tonight that what we're talking about is science. So, where did Kinsey get his facts? Where did he get his raw data to support his new science? He got this information, he says this, not me, he got this information from paedophiles. He invited paedophiles, these are his words, not mine, to submit reports of their sexual contact with children. According to his closest colleagues who I interviewed, he did more than that. He actively commissioned paedophiles to go out and to sexually assault children and babies, and directed the research which they carried out. For clarity, this involved the extended and repeated masturbation and penetration of 2,035 babies and infants and children. Not my figures, his figures. Actions which Kinsey and his colleagues knew, admit, and say were illegal and often caused pain. An ethical question, if I may. Is it ever scientifically justifiable to perform illegal and painful experiments on those who are either unwilling or unable to consent? Does the end, the scientific end, justify the means? An example, an analogy, a parallel, if you will. Kinsey's experiments were conducted before and during the years of World War II. At the same time, in Nazi Germany, a doctor called Josef Mengele was conducting cruel and appalling scientific experiments on the inmates of concentration camps. Some of those had a clear and indeed understandable goal, for example, to investigate the effects on the human body of immersion in freezing water, so as to save or provide better protection to Luftwaffe pilots who were downed in the ocean. Today, we universally recognize those experiments, Mengele's experiments, as barbaric and unjustifiable. Indeed, they formed part of the Nuremberg trials in 1947 and 1948. Why then do Kinsey's experiments, equally barbaric, equally painful, equally illegal, why then do they not attract the same condemnation? Next, the circumstances in which these experiments are carried out. It's a fundamental tenet of science that for an experiment to be valid, it must be conducted impartially, and that the data which derives from it must be properly recorded and subject to examination. The paedophiles who Kinsey encouraged or commissioned all self-reported. They carried out their experiments on babies and children alone, and, according to Kinsey at least, with no supervision. No one examined, much less questioned, the results which these paedophiles reported. Kinsey simply published them, and he published them as evidence that children enjoyed these experiments. One example, and I know Judith will give you more. Table 34, if it's up there, of Kinsey's first book, described the timed masturbation of children and babies by an adult paedophile over a 24-hour period. And it purported to record the length of time it took these children to reach what the paedophile, and only the paedophile, asserted was orgasm. We're here today in an academic institution. We should ask ourselves whether this university would ever permit, much less accept without evaluation, research carried out by someone with a direct interest in a favourable outcome. An analogy. Would this university, would any university, allow a researcher funded by a drug company to carry out experiments on that company's products, unmonitored and unsupervised? Would any university then accept without question whether such a compromised researcher's assertion that the drug was safe and should be widely used, would they accept that without any supervision? Would you? That's exactly what Kinsey did with his paedophiles, and it is exactly that which he published, and it is exactly that which is the sole basis for the assertion that children are sexual from birth and that they enjoy sex with adults. Is that science? Is it good science? Is it any form of science? I'm not a scientist. You are. I think it's a fair question. Then there's the question of what happened since. The single most fundamental rule of scientific research is the concept of peer review, yes? In any reputable academic establishment like this one, the results of scientific experiments must be evaluated and examined by other scientists and researchers. Pretty standard stuff, isn't it? Kinsey's self-proclaimed scientific data has never in 70 years been subjected to any peer review. Worse, Kinsey's institute refuses to allow any access to that data. It alone determines what the data says. Again, I ask, is this science? Despite this, the United States, much of Europe, has accepted Kinsey's assertion that children are sexual from birth, and it has predicated policy, both child protection policy and policy for the education of children about sex, on this premise. On the say-so, the sole word of paedophiles. Surely public policy should be based on solid research, on solid science, not the assertions of those with a vested interest in the outcome. And you might ask, as you sit here tonight, what's this got to do with me? What possible connection between us sitting here in Zagreb is there with something that happened 70 years ago, thousands of miles away? There are two reasons. Two. The first is that there is a new initiative. First in 70 years, the first time anyone has tried this, to have the Kinsey Institute made to open up its books, to expose its data, and to justify what it's done. And that initiative follows an acceptance of the Kinsey Institute for official status at the United Nations. The initiative says, suspend that, examine the Kinsey Institute, make it justify its work. And the second follows on from that, because the UN status which the Kinsey Institute now has gives it a seat at the table. It gives it a voice in international policy, and that policy determines child sex education. Last year, that caused something of a row here. Your constitutional court got involved. there is still an ongoing debate, and the civil initiative, which some of the people here are part, wants that re-evaluated because of the basis, the Kinseyan basis of that. Those are the two reasons why it affects you personally. But there is another reason. We stand this evening in a medical school. A medical school. As doctors, you will, I think this happens in Croatia, all of you swear or affirm the Hippocratic Oath. That commits you, and I quote, to the utmost respect for human life from its beginning. Your working lives will be framed within this commitment, and I'm sure you will live up to it every day. But I would also ask you to consider your oath in the form that you'll affirm it, and consider where it came from. It came from an updated version of the Hippocratic Oath, a version which was updated by the World Medical Association in 1948 in Geneva. And that's where that form of words come from. And that updating was done specifically, the WMA says, as a direct response to the crimes of what it called the shame and the tragedy of the German medical experience under Nazi rule, and in particular to the appalling experiments carried out by Dr. Mengele and others. And I would urge you to consider whether, as doctors and as scientists, you have a duty today to examine the fraudulent science based on cruel and illegal experiments sold by Dr. Kinseyu to a trusting world. If you believe, as I do, that you do have this duty, then I urge you to listen to what Dr. Riesman has to say, and to do as I did, and carefully examine the evidence she has uncovered about Kinsey's experiments. I come from a different tradition to Dr. Riesman. I'm a socialist, I'm an agnostic, I'm not of her persuasion. I examined every dot and comma of her research, and I didn't want at the outset to believe it. But so clear is the evidence that I had to accept it. So please, do as I did. Listen first, then question, research. And when you come to the truth, I urge you not to push it to one side as too difficult or uncomfortable to face, but to deal with it and to question and to take it further. I believe that's your duty, as it was mine, but I believe it's your duty, particularly as doctors, as academicians, as citizens of the world, but above all, as scientists.
So, if there are no any more comments, then I think before thanking you, we have to conclude that this was an extremely interesting meeting with three world-known experts on the field of child sexuality and child sex abuse. This is a matter of concern, of course, of our School of Medicine, which is the leading medical school in Croatia, and should be responsible not only for strictly spoken medical education of medical doctors and postgraduate students, but also for some basic, very serious question we face in our society, and we have to feel a responsibility and feel a sort of task, challenge to make the world better. If the children are abused in any way, then it's not tolerable. We are swearing today that everybody should have rights, that everybody has to be free, with no limits, and basically spoken it's okay, but we have to be aware of one of the most, I think, dangerous Kinsey's messages, that if the child is a sexual individual from her or his birth, then it should be normal to tolerate sexual behavior among children, sexual relations, and sexual relations between adults and children, because children are sexual individuals. So that's a disaster. And that's the essence. And that's the essential deleterious message we are getting from Kinseyu, and we have to fight against that.